Hey splashes, welcome back to the channel. In today's tutorial, I'll be sharing the step-by-step process for creating this stunning Aline after dress. If you're curious about how I made the matching trousers, let me know in the comments below. Please like, share and subscribe. If you're ready to learn and create something beautiful, let's dive in.
To begin, we need our shoulder measurement, bust measurement, waist length, hip, sleeve and round sleeve. So to begin, we already have our fabric on a fold, and if you notice I did some joining. This is because your normal Ankara fabric is by 45 and this is longer than 45. So at the point you want your shoulder to be, just roll out a straight line. That will be your start line, and then your shoulder, you will be dividing it by 2. Whatever you have, you add half an inch to it. Okay, just place it at that start line you've rolled out and then mark it out. Take note, you don't have to join this Ankara fabric if the other way around. That's if you're using the width, and the length will be okay for you. So to proceed, we are going to be dividing our bust by 6 and adding 1.5 inch to get our armhole measurement. Okay, so whatever you have, you place your tape at the beginning of the start line and then mark it out. So we are just going to mark this out, after which whatever we have, this top part, you mark it at the lower part. This is not necessary, but this is just to ensure a straight measurement. So after you mark it there, you are going to connect these lines together. So after connecting the lines together, the next thing is to fit in your bust measurement. So this time around, you'll be dividing your bust by 4, and whatever you have, you add the amount of allowances you'd be needing to sew. It depends on what you want. You can decide to add 2-inch allowance, 1-inch sewing allowance, and the bigger the allowance, you're on the safer side. So just mark it out and then connect it to this line. So the next thing we are going to do is to subtract some inches. That is, here I'm subtracting just half. You can decide to subtract more or less. So this is for the shoulder slant. So from the neck part, you'll be marking 3 inches away, then you connect from that half inch to the 3 inches you measured. So this is for your shoulder slant. So the more slanted the person's shoulder is, you know that the more you are taking out. So to get a perfect armhole, we are going to be dividing whatever we have here into, instead of using your calculator, just fold your tape, and then we'll go in by half an inch from the midpoint there and then mark it out. So we are connecting from this point to this shoulder point and then to the other part of the bust. So you can decide to use your free hand or your French curve, whatever you're comfortable with. So make sure you connect them at the right places. So we are just going to connect this. Take note of this. So this is what we'll have. The next thing now is to get the point we'll be fixing our waist. So from my bust to my waist is 8 inches. So you can actually measure this. So if you notice, this joining falls almost the same point I have the waist. So whenever you are joining a fabric, make sure the design blends well and make sure that it falls almost where you have your waist. So this will make it not to be noticeable. So your waist measurements, you'll be dividing it by 4 and adding the exact allowance you added to your bust on the waist also, because you don't want to add a different number of allowance. So whatever you have, you mark it at that point. So the next thing after that now is to get our hip measurement. Okay, so this is an A-line gown basically. So your hip measurements, you might decide to use it, you might decide not to use it. So first of all, we'll be connecting from our waist to our bust. Okay, so this is what we'll have after connecting it together. If you notice, this is not that defined because it's an A-line dress. So we'll go down by 8 inches to get our hip line, and then for the hip, whatever measurements you have for the hip, if you notice, we've been dividing by 4. So we divided the bust by 4, we divided the waist by 4. You also be dividing the hip by 4, After dividing it by 4, the number of allowance you add to your bust and your waist, you add it to it and then mark it. So after marking it now, this is what we'll have. So you know that you'll be connecting the lines together. So you can connect with a curve, you can connect with your free hand. Just make sure you connect properly so the curves doesn't look funny and all that. And make sure to contour because your body is not sharp. So after doing this, since it's an A-line dress, you might decide to just roll this straight down to the end from the hip, or you decide to open it up till the end. So it depends on what you want. Okay, so for this one, we'll be using our roll, and then from the hip part, we'll be slanting it to the end of the fabric. So this doesn't have a rigid way out of it. So just make sure to roll this out. The essence of you having a roll is for this dress not to have a funny shape by the time you are sewing it. So don't connect the lines with your free hand. For other stuffs, you can connect with your free hand, but for this, ensure to use a rule. So we'll be cutting the back part. If you notice, I also made a joining and we'll have it on a fold. So make sure the joining rhymes with where you have the joining at the front part. If you notice, I am placing them together right now, and I'm leaving an extra at the width. That is where we'll be having the neckline, because this after dress or A-line dress has an opening at the front to accommodate a band for the button, though the buttons won't be getting to the down part. So I made it to be 1 inch bigger, okay, wider. So you're just going to connect it all through till the down, and then adjust the front part to meet where you have your 1 inch. So there's no hard and fast through this. Just make sure the part you join and the waist part, that's if you are joining, corresponds. After which we are going to be cutting this out. So in case there's a process you don't understand, don't hesitate to rewind this video or let me know in the comment section any challenge you are facing. So we are just going to cut this out. The back part is simple, the front part is also simple. So for the neckline, we are going to be removing the front part because the necklines are different. The back is higher, so you mark 3 inches width and then just curve it, probably using half an inch, but make sure the 3 inches width you are using is same for the front part, though the front part has extras. So you come down by 2 inches, that is after cutting the same thing with the front, and then cut it out. You can as well use the measurements you have for your client's neck. You can measure their neck, but if you didn't measure their neck, you can follow this process. So the next thing we're going to do is open the part for the front where we'll be fixing in our buttons. So this is what we'll have for the front part, and for the back, take note the back is a cut together while the front is into two pieces. So this is what we'll have. So from this part where I added 1 inch, you're going to go in by 1 inch more and then slant it to the waistline. Okay, so from this neckline to this waistline is where we'll be fixing our button on. So this is so it laps properly, so that the rest parts will be more open, since they would not be having buttons, but it will be having a band. Okay, so I went ahead to make a band. This band is 2.5 inch wide, and then I added my paper gum to it. So by the time you're fixing it, make sure to leave half inch before the neckline. Okay, so that by the time you're putting your lining, when you sew, everything balance off. So while this doesn't get to the end is because we'll be folding it. So go ahead to sew this band on both ends of the front piece. So this is what we'll have after attaching it, and if you notice, the half inch I left for the neckline is still there. So we have these embellishments we'll be using. You can get this on in any store. So you're just going to pin this down so it doesn't move. Your machine would be able to sew on this. there are lines kept for your machine to sew on. But if you are scared, you can as well use your hand needle. So this is what it should look like by the time you're done sewing. Just trim out the excess at the neckline points on the both piece. So for the lining, you're just cutting exact piece. Okay, exactly what you cut on the main fabric, you'd be cutting the exact same thing for your lining. Just make sure it is shorter, the length is shorter, because we'll be folding the main fabric in. Okay, so make sure to work with your pins so you don't make mistakes. The first part you should be sewing when you're working with your pin is the down part, and then just place them together and sew using your half-inch sewing allowance. Okay. Another easy way of turning this lining is after sewing your neckline, turn the back. You remember you already sewed the band together with this piece, so you might follow the line at which you sew this to sew it. So this is what you should have after turning the lining for every part of this A-line dress. Take note, when you're sewing, you don't have to seal the armhole because that's where you'll be turning it over. So this is exactly what I've done here. Go ahead to notch the necklines for the both piece and then cut out the edge, this part I'm cutting out, so that you can be able to flip it over properly. So we are just going to turn it over. This is what we have after ironing it out. So the next thing is to join our shoulder lines. So just place them together, make sure the start point laps, and then flip the lining over and then sew using half an inch. You'll be doing this for both parts of this, and this is what it should look like after joining the shoulders. You see that the knit sewing is there in and out, so we'll be joining the sides. This is what you should have after joining the side. Just join the side using the exact allowance you have left behind. And if you notice, I made loops for the button, loops or buttonholes using the same fabric. So this is exactly what it should look like. The next thing we'll be moving on is to cutting our sleeve. So for this sleeve, I have a tutorial on how I made this sleeve pattern. So that's what I'll be making use of. If you've not watched that video, make sure you watch the video. And I have a more detailed tutorial on how I made this sleeve. So let me know in the comment section if I'll be sharing that with you guys. So this is not as detailed as the video I'm talking about. Let me know if you want me to upload that video. So the sleeve is not a difficult one, but it will take much time, so that is why I did not include it in this particular video. But you can still get an idea from what I'm doing in this excerpt, but do well to let me know if you want the main tutorial. So after joining the sides of this dress, you proceed to attaching the sleeve to it. So this is basically all you need to know about cutting this stylish A-line after dress. So let me know if you want to know how I made the trouser worn underneath this A-line dress. And don't forget to like this video, share and subscribe. Until next time, keep splashing.